today I'm going to be talking about a limited palette. I had a friend of mine ask me about that. By limited palette, I'm talking about using a very limited or small number of colors, set out on your palette. And the main reason why I personally use a limited palette is it tends to lend harmony into the painting. Everything, the fewer colors that you have, the more harmonious a painting tends to be. And actually, it's interesting how great a painting can become, or what you can turn out without a zillion colors on your palette. And when a friend of mine asked me that, about a limited palette, the person that came to mind for me that was really a great proponent and advocate and a great example of what you can do, with very few colors is Anders Zorn, Z-O-R-N. And Anders Zorn was a Swede. He was a Swedish painter, and worked about 100 years ago. He was probably in his prime about 100 years ago. And the good news is that one of the paintings that he did back then actually shows his palette. And so I'm going to show you that here. And this is, it's kind of a self-portrait. He's got his model back here. Try and get this glare off of here. And this is his palette. And so back here he's got a dark. Well, let me do it this way. The simplest way is to probably just take and use the colors that I feel are the closest you can buy today. Other people are going to have different opinions about that. What he used, and I'm just going to tell you what I've used to try and pull off the same effect. And it's worked really pretty well for me as far as getting something close. So this is, see if I can get this right so you can see it, get it to focus. So this is ivory black. I use ivory black here, raw umber here, cad red light, yellow ochre, and titanium white. Ivory black, raw umber, cad red light, yellow ochre, titanium white. So I'll set this down over here. And basically what you have with that, what that gives you, it's almost like you've got a cool black, a warm black with the raw umber, and then you've got the punch with that cad red light, and then you've got that, of course, you've got that yellow with the muted yellow with the yellow ochre, and of course you need white. So I went ahead and began to play around with the colors that I've just mentioned. Started doing some paintings with that. And this is a little over an hour I've got on this guy, or in this painting. And this is using that quote Zorn palette. So you can see you can get quite a bit done with that. This is another example. This I probably have about an hour in her. And then I went ahead and along that same line I used a dark violet and ultramarine blue, and very limited, still stayed limited with the colors, and did these guys. So it's the same concept, it's the same idea. And this is probably about 45 minutes on that one, and same, probably about 45 minutes on her. And these are all kind of practice paintings for me. And this one I pushed myself pretty hard just to see, and this one here I've got 15 minutes in. So it's a nice thing to experiment with. I use the palette that I paint with all the time is larger. It's got more colors, a greater color selection in it than what Zorn used. And in case I didn't mention it before, Zorn didn't stay exclusive to that palette. Within the body of his work, you can actually see where he's added, most notably blue into his palette. I think ultramarine blue. But the fact is, he would expand away from that core palette that I just showed you. It doesn't have to stay there, but it seemed almost like a home base for him in some ways. So that is my quick little video on a limited palette, and you might consider playing around with that. I'll just call it the Zorn palette. Play around with that and see how it works for you, and you might be surprised with what you can come up with. Anyway, that's it. My name's Chris Mummert, and thank you for watching.